Hey, good morning, everybody. Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. Welcome to the weekend, the first weekend here in the new year. It is cold, and cold is the story, but we've got some winter weather threats to talk about. The first one, more of an ice threat for the mountains and foothills. This is not going to be a snow event for even the mountains. It's mainly going to be ice or sleet or freezing rain. Everybody else, a cold rain, but it's really setting the table for a really cold week ahead. So let's get right to the pattern. This is a look at the satellite radar loop this morning. High pressure. There are no storms, no travel issues right now across the whole eastern half of the country. So if you're traveling anywhere, you're okay. The TikTok guy was completely out of his mind, as we all know. There's no point of worrying about any system today and really for the first part of tomorrow. But going into the afternoon, we're going to start focusing on this storm in the middle of the country, which is going to be a really strong storm. I mean, what's underplayed in this, everyone focuses so much on snow this time of year. There's actually a pretty significant severe weather event that could unfold with this system. So I'm going to turn off the satellite imagery here and hopefully show you some of the convective outlooks because we've got the risk for severe storms across the mid-south as this system begins to track off to the east. So it's something to keep an eye on. If you're in this part of the country, severe weather is going to be an issue. And that's how warm the southern part of this system is as it moves off to the east. It'll eventually head towards the Carolinas. And you can see even a severe weather risk to our south, parts of Georgia and northern Florida. So this tells you how dynamic the system is, but also how warm the southern sections of this system is. It's really not a winter storm for the south. It's more for the Ohio Valley that this is going to be a big issue. So let's get into the forecast real quickly. All right, let's start with the overall arching forecast. You see the system coming together, and this is a pretty dynamic system. This is not a winter storm for the Carolinas per se. It technically is. It's winter and it's a storm, but I've had a lot of people ask me, what about this snow heading our way? There's no snow heading our way. I don't know where people are getting this still, but this is not a snowstorm. I saw even the local paper trying to hype people and clickbait people into talking snow. But folks, this is going to be ice or rain. This is not a snow setup, and I'll explain why. So the reason, the main reason why is you can see that the track of the low is up in here. This is going to be moving across the mid-south. So this is not, or the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. This is not a good track for us. Our track needs to be down at here. Okay, the fact that it's up there means it pulls up a bunch of warm air. And if you want evidence of how warm it is, look at the line of severe storms. Remember, I just talked about the risk of severe weather. Look at that nasty squall line. There's going to be severe weather in the south, not winter weather. Now, the one caveat here is that we could get cold air damming. What's interesting about this model, this is all snow up here. I don't know why that's green, but that's just an issue sometimes with the guidance. And that's why all model data is not great. You can't take it all for a grain of salt, or for the truth, you got to take it with a grain of salt. Models are wrong. Let me tell you this. We have a saying in meteorology. All models are wrong, but some models are useful. Specifics in the models aren't always what I look at. I look at for patterns and trends and how to build a forecast locally. So knowing the track of the low, the individual parts and pieces, that's where the expertise comes in here. So what we know is we've got really cold, dry over. If you go outside today or anytime this weekend, it's cold and dry out there. That cold and dry air is going to get trapped at the surface. So some of this moisture that comes in, it's actually going to be warmer above our head. So if you go up to 5,000 feet tomorrow, it's going to be about 4 or 5 degrees warmer than it is down at the ground. That warm air means it's going to be rain above our heads, falling into a colder layer. Now, if that layer is cold enough, sometimes you can refreeze the raindrops to a speck of ice, and it hits as ice. That's sleet. Think of the difference. Sleet is like sprinkles, okay? Freezing rain is like glaze. It comes down as liquid and freezes after the fact, okay? So we could see some sleet at the beginning, but eventually it's going to warm up enough that it's just going to become rain. And why is that? Well, to see big ice storms, you need to have high pressure up here continuously resupplying the cold air. I could get into the science of this, but freezing rain, it's a self-limiting process. Basically meaning when things freeze, they release heat into the air. So as things freeze, the air will slowly warm up above freezing unless you get a constant supply or refreshing supply of cold air at the surface. We don't have that. So eventually the cold air gets used up by this process, this latent heat release that's going to be going on. So eventually we'll see this change to all rain, but there will be some pockets of cold air trapped in those typical spots. And you can see them. It's the eastern facing slopes, the Yadkin Valley, Upper Burke, Caldwell County, Wilkes County, eastern Avery, Ashwaubenon. That's going to be ice. But this is all mostly just a miserable cold rain, which, by the way, if you live in the Carolinas, that's your atypical winter storm, right? freezing cold rain. I joke sometimes these are underperformed or underdeveloped rain snowflakes, but it's rain. It's gonna be pouring Monday morning as this moves through, and you can see heavy rain through about the middle of the day, then it dries out. So not a great Monday morning, even without the ice. It's going to be rain. Now on the backside, there is a little bit of wraparound snow that will affect the mountains, and there's been this hint that maybe there could be a few flurries along the Tennessee Virginia border, but I'm not buying it. So let's show you where we're expecting issues right now. I'm going to back this up here. This is where we currently have our watches and advisories. Winter storm watch up, which means conditions are favorable for winter weather. Remember, that does not always mean snow. It means ice. In this case, it could be ice, sleet, freezing rain, or some mixture. So when you think winter storm, think of all those things, just not snow. So winter storm watch there, winter weather advisory here. Now remember, this is an important fact. A winter storm watch can be upgraded to a winter weather advisory. Winter storm watch is the lowest of the low. The next up is winter weather advisory. The next up from there is winter storm warning. And then if you want to think about it, what's up above that? Blizzard warning maybe, right? But yeah, winter weather advisory is actually an upgrade from a winter storm watch. Do not think of that as a downgrade. It just means the amounts are smaller than they are for a warning, right? So we have a winter storm watch up, and this is for ice, okay? What's the problem here? Well, we're going to have Sunday night, really probably starting Sunday afternoon in the mountains, through Monday morning, rain and ice. Ice for the mountains and foothills, rain for everybody else. Slow going on a Monday morning. Gosh, rain just sucks in general in the morning commute. Everyone's back to school and work after the holiday, so you get the idea. So let's go into the details here. I'm going to move my head, which is gigantic there. We'll go through time here. I'm going to move this out of the way so we can see. So this is a 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. We're dry. That's why today's fine, and early Sunday's fine. Really, about mid-afternoon, we'll stop this at 2, 3. There's some hints of this little precipitation band coming through. Now, I'm not buying this completely because the air is going to be incredibly dry. We saw some of this yesterday. This could be virga or snurga, precipitation falling from the cloud base but not making it to the ground. Either way, this is not going to amount to much. Probably sleet mixed with rain. If we're going to see sleet in Charlotte, it's going to be with this first band. That's in and out quickly. It's done. We're back to dry, and then here comes the rain. Remember, the whole time, warm air is surging in. Now, when I say warm air, it's not going to feel warm. It's going to be in the 30s and 40s, but it's going to be above freezing. So we're talking in relation to the freezing point, 32 degrees or 0 degrees Celsius. It's going to be warming up. But you can see this pink kind of trapped against the mountains here. That's where we're going to see the ice. So Monday morning, this is 3 o'clock in the morning. We'll get to about sunrise. You can still see ice could linger there for a while. This is just a cold rain everywhere else. And again, it goes into the early part of Monday and then clears out fairly quickly. And there comes some northwest flow snow. Could we see some flurries on the backside? Sure. But again, impact close to 0. So that's kind of the timing. So let's look at the amounts, right? How much ice are we talking about? These specific areas that I would focus on are the eastern facing slopes. So Jonas Ridge, Pinola area, Linville Gorge, Upper Burke County and Caldwell County as you go into Blowing Rock, Wilkes County, North Wilkesboro to West Jefferson to Sparta to Mount Airy. This is typically the area that sees ice. And there will be a few spots here like Black Mountain area, possibly Mount Mitchell, and then some areas around Asheville, not maybe in Asheville in the valley, but the mountains around. And again, even in the South Mountains, you could see some, the Porcupine Mountains up there. There could be a few spots here and there or the brushies where you see some ice in the elevation areas where there's cold air traps. So those are kind of the areas that we're thinking about for icing. And this is where I expect the highest impacts. These areas on these eastern facing slopes, you can see around Black Mountain, Old Fort area, north of Marion there, heading up into Upper Burke, Upper Caldwell, parts of Wilkes County, Sparta, Mount Airy area. So those are the areas that I'm kind of focused on for the potential for this ice. Now, real quickly, before I leave you, I do want to hint at one thing. Late next week, the pattern's still there, folks. I know some of you say, I got snow in my app. Folks, there is still a pattern that is favorable. There's no specifics, right? We're talking next weekend. The pattern is still favorable for the possibility of some wintry weather. And let me show you why. As we go through next week, there are hints. Again, not specifics. I'm not going to show you a snowfall map because we don't know that. Sometimes in the deterministic models, there'll be a snowstorm and then it's gone. A snowstorm and it's gone. And a lot of folks will ebb and flow with that. Oh my gosh, we're getting a ton of snow. Then it's gone. It's like, what I look at is the larger picture. What is the overarching picture? So if we go into late next week, look at this. We've got a northern branch piece of energy right here over the Great Lakes. We've got a southern branch right here. Okay, they're both there. They're showing up in the models. At certain times, the southern branch breaks off and doesn't sync with the upper branch, and we don't get phasing, so we get a weak system. But if these two should hook up and become a larger storm system next weekend, we could have next Saturday, Sunday, maybe something brewing. Again, it's ebb and flow here. We're still a week out. So don't, if you're a snow lover, people are like, Brad, you're screwed, you're 10, there's nothing going to happen. I'm telling you right now is the pattern is there, right? I use this all the time. This is the story. The pattern is there. We just don't know if it's trending up or down. So stay tuned. As we get closer, I'll let you know if it's going to trend up or down, if we're going to see wintry weather. But there still is a favorable pattern with the cold air in place next week. But we've got to focus on this first storm first, which means ice Sunday night, Monday morning from the mountains and foothills. Please stay weather aware for that. We'll post more about that possible storm or the pattern at least next week as we get closer. Let's get through the first storm first.